Hey, everybody. Hello. Welcome. I'm talking to somebody today who, when you're watching it, this person will be in his new position, having shocked everybody and being the most talked about, but never mind the most listened to person on radio, the most talked about person on radio. So much to talk to him about. It's Ken Bruce. Remember, you can listen to the full-length episode wherever you get your podcasts.
Well, hello, what a lovely introduction. Thank you so much, Rob.
I've been excited about this. We've known each other we were in an odd relationship, obviously, to my impression of your voice.
Yeah.
For some bizarre reason, I find your voice incredibly easy to do.
Well, maybe with the same voice box or something like that. I don't know.
I was going to hold it back.
No,
No,
you can't.
But I tell you what, though, for years and years, I would say PopMaster. And then one day I was listening and you say Master.
Yes, because I'm an old BBC announcer. As I think you are as well. But yeah, PopMaster, because I was brought up in the BBC. And so these vestiges of how to speak proper are still there with me. But not when I was a child, I said, PopMaster. I would have said, so you're half right.
So this relationship then, I've seen you when I'm in at Radio 2 doing an interview or what have you, done PopMaster, did very well.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah, I remember, yeah. Not very well, but quite well.
I think I only got one or two wrong.
Yeah, well, that's not very well, I'm afraid, is it? It's just quite well.
Well, some of the people I've heard on it, absolute showers.
Yes, but you must never measure by the worst. Always the best.
Well, I'll think of myself as a tape measure then.
Very nearly there.
So we have this association, and I do a little bit of you in my live shows, so I feel in a funny sort of way, and people mention us together on social media. So you're always with me. That April Fool's Day a few years ago, we haven't mentioned this.
No.
That April Fool's Day, where, for people that don't know, I came in and did an impersonation of you for the whole of the show.
The entire programme, 2.5 hours. An act of absolute brilliance, if I may say. Just a real genius.
Oh, no. Not at all. And we got Pete Serafinovich did Terry, you know. But and then one bit I'm talking to him and he's doing Terry, and I started drifting towards Terry's voice because I'd hear that. Oh, trying to get back again, Bruce. Oh, and a little less of that whole thing going on. But that day, and of course the handover was from Chris, and I think they only told him just seconds before, you know, that it was going to be me. So he goes, Ken, and I think, thank you, Chris. And then into a record.
We didn't tell anybody. It was only Lewis Carney, who was the boss of the station. I don't even think the press office had been told.
Brilliant, good.
And hardly anybody in the building knew. Nobody in my family knew, just my wife. Because I was home, you know, at the beginning of the show.
You were having a nice time off.
Having a lie-in. And my sister phoned. She was listening.
Yeah.
And she said, what's wrong with him? Is he drunk? He's talking nonsense. He must be drunk. Get him off there. Phone them up and tell him to get him off there.
And she was serious.
She thought it was me. So there you are. My own sister. She was fooled.
That's very funny. That's very funny.
But keeping it going for 2.5 hours was simply marvellous.
Oh, it was such fun. They didn't tell the PopMaster contestants.
No.
We had one guy who's a member of the Real Ale Society, and I said, so you're a heavy drinker, is that right? Well, I won't say that. I like real ale. I mean, a bit of a problem with the booze.
It's all the things I'd have loved to say.
Yeah, exactly. But that you can't. So much excitement in Ken Bruce land. Leaving, well, not leaving, you've left.
Yeah.
Let's get the tense right.
Gone.
And it's not tense anymore. But you've gone from BBC Radio 2. You're home for how long?
I first worked there in 1982, I think. And I first had a programme in 84 of my own, programme of my own. So, yeah, it's been a few years, but who's counting?
And you decided it was time to move on.
Yeah. I always like to make the decision myself rather than have somebody else decide it's time for me to move on. So, yeah, I sorted out a nice little arrangement with Greatest Hits Radio.
Greatest Hits Radio?
Greatest Hits Radio.
Greatest Hits Radio.
Yeah, we play
music from the 70s.
70s, 80s, and 90s.
And 90s.
Oh, yes. And, a little bit here and there.
Is it a better music mix?
Yeah, I think so. I would say that. But, it's bangers, as the youngsters say. It's all good songs you
it's
know and love.
absolutely.
And 3 decades, which were possibly the best decades.
That's almost
for
30
music. Yeah.
years.
And we'll also dip into the 60s and stuff like that
Hang
occasionally.
on a minute. You just said greatest hits radio,
Yeah.
the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. You can't also dip into the
Well,
60s.
I think to understand the 70s, you can illustrate with a 60s song.
Oh,
There you are.
beautifully presented.
Thank you.
Yes.
And usually I've been making things up for a long time on the radio. But yeah, it's 70s, 80s, 90s, basically. It's all songs you know and love. And, even I've got a 15-year-old son. He loves 70s music.
Yeah.
I think it works right across.
What is it about greatest hits radio that you're enjoying the most? It must be, I'm imagining, a lovely feeling of a new lease. as
Well,
it were.
yeah. I've got the chance to go on doing what I like doing in a different way and play great music and a whole new team to work with. Lovely people. They
Yeah.
are genuinely good, nice people and appreciative of having me there, which is a nice.
That's
it's
a nice
lovely
feeling, isn't it?
is, yeah,
PopMaster.
beautifully said.
PopMaster. Oh, you're 1 year out. PopMaster.
Keep saying it's nothing like me. I know you do it on stage because I went to a stage show in Oxford, sat in the audience.
Did you?
Yes.
Did I know you were there?
No.
Oh,
Of course you didn't. And, you did an impression of me, and my wife peed herself laughing, of course, and so did everybody else in the audience. And I was going, well, it's not that funny, is it?
Why didn't you tell me you were there?
Oh, I wouldn't do a thing like that.
I'm just taking this in that you were in the audience. I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's a good show. Yeah, I say it was a good show.
Thanks
It's
very
worth-
much.
it's worth-
I was
worth the
waiting
money.
for that. Yeah, thank you.
Worth the money, apart
Thank
from
you.
that one
You
bit.
paid. You guys have given you a free. Anyway, never mind. But PopMaster, I was interested. I've read that a few years ago, what is the word? Patented or copyrighted PopMaster?
Trademarked. There
was another word.
Yeah.
And you did that very quietly, under the radar.
Well, yeah, not quite, because I didn't do it that quietly, because I went to a senior person at the BBC, and this was quite early on in the gestation of PopMaster. I said, I think this could run quite a while. Don't you think we should trademark it? And this person said, no.
Oh,
Great. Ridiculous,
So good.
And I said, well, is it all right if I do it? Yeah. And more or less, yeah. So Phil Spurlin and Phil, who writes the questions, we trademarked it and did nothing with it for 10, 15 years, more. And then we thought, well, maybe we'd do some board games or books. Phil did a couple of books of questions, which sold quite well. And we did a board game, and we got a contract signed with the BBC, which was closed at each end. So they had the license to do PopMaster on radio at the end of that contract, which was the same as the end of my contract. We just said, well, we're taking it elsewhere. I know normally the BBC would have rights over that, but because we had signed it up as a trademark, they don't.
I like when you said, we just signed this and we did nothing for, what do you say, 10?
Oh, yeah, at least 10, 15 years, I think.
Puts me in mind of, no, Mr. Bond, I can wait.
Yeah. I'm not a business person. I've got no business brain. I'll tell you, I ran a small bus company for a while, and we've lost money hand over fist.
Hang on a minute.
Well, I'll tell you more about it if you want. But yeah.
Yes, please.
Well, when the London Transport were getting rid of their Route Master buses in the early 2000s,
Yes.
a friend of mine came to me and said, I would like to buy one of these because I'm a bus enthusiast, but I don't have any money. So would you fancy coming in on this? And I said, well, yeah, but I don't want to spend too much either, So we got a couple of other people in, and it wasn't that much. It was only about 4,000 quid or something.
Yeah.
But we put our money in, and then we had to spend about £20,000 restoring the bus. So that, we had to put more money in. And then we thought, we'll get some money back on this because we've spent all this. So we started hiring the bus out for weddings, birthdays, stuff like that. And then it was going quite well. So we got another bus, and we ended up with 7 buses. And then the bottom started falling out of the market. People were, charging less, and we'd already got some infrastructure, a business, an office and a yard.
Yeah.
So we started divesting ourselves of buses, and just last month we sold our last. Back to the guy who originally wanted the bus.
Wow. Well, I've not seen that in all the stories about your move
Really?
from
Oh,
radio
right.
to.
Oh, it's not relevant particularly, but I mean, I've lost money hand over fist on that, so it just shows you what a bad businessman I am.
Good Lord. So you'll take now. You've already started, but when people are watching or listening to this, you'll have already started.
Yep.
On Greatest Hits Radio.
The show will be substantially what it is on Radio 2, but it'll be slightly different time slot, 10 till 1. Rather than 9:30 start, it'll be 10 a.m. PopMaster will still be at 10:30, so and the station is available to be heard right around the country. It's on DAB and on an app, obviously, but it's also on a whole load of formerly local stations. Particularly in Scotland, Clyde 2 rather, and Forth 2. These stations are now Greatest Hits Radio, so I'll be on. And they have local output at different times of the day. My breakfast show will be local, and the afternoon show will be local.
And as I say, while people listen to this, you're already up, you're doing it, okay? But right now, you haven't done it. How are you feeling about it?
To an extent, it will be just the same.
Exactly.
It won't be really any different. I'll be in a different room,
Yeah.
and I'll be going into a different building, but the same signposts.
Different producers, of course.
Yes, indeed. But Phil Swern, who is the PopMaster Supremo, he's coming with us, so he will be producing that and taking an overview of the show. So it will be familiar. And the people who work there are fantastic. I love them.
Yeah.
They're great guys. So, I'm not in any sense in trepidation of it, but it will be different. There's no doubt about that. I've been going in and out of a BBC building for 45 years, so it will be different.
I was thinking on the way in here, you've interviewed, not I suppose everybody, but I mean, almost everybody.
A lot of people in the music business, certainly.
Well, I wasn't thinking science and research and agriculture. I was thinking mostly the music business. Yes,
we're reduced to actors now.
When I said everybody, I didn't mean everybody.
Well, I've done Brian Cox, but then he straddles both.
Yes. And you seem to have a good relationship with them. The impression I always get when musicians talk to you is that they like you.
Well, I like musicians.
Yeah,
that helps.
That comes across.
I'm a fan, so that without being a kind of drooling fan, I obviously know a little bit.
The drooling has cleared up, hasn't it? The last time I saw you were telling me
the cup helps.
You got the dosage right now. You said, yeah.
I like musicians particularly.
Yeah.
So I enjoy being in their company, and if they're telling a story, I'm listening and reacting, and it makes them feel at home and comfortable.
When you speak to so many of them, there are going to be levels, aren't there, of excitement and I would imagine if you were to speak to Bob Dylan,
yes,
who nobody speaks to, but that would be exciting. And then, so who have you spoken to that you can remember thinking, or do you not feel like that?
Well, I tend to be thinking more about the practicalities of it. So if Bob Dylan came in, I would be more concerned that he wasn't going to speak. Or he was going to be taciturn and say monosyllabic answers. And I'd be more concerned with the nuts and bolts of the interview and how it was going to go, what I was going to ask next. If that got an answer, where would I go after that? Because I don't write down questions. I would just want to get one started, and then I'll think of something depending on what they say.
Yeah,
as you do so very well.
As I appear to. I've written my questions in black ink on a black felt tabletop.
You see, I
can't see a thing. There must be some, though, that over the years that you've been a little more excited than others.
James Taylor, for example.
Oh,
James
come
Taylor.
on, absolutely, 100%.
You still have to ask the questions and be professional about it.
If it's someone you really admire and love, you don't want them to be disappointed.
No.
You don't want them going away and go, who's that idiot?
Yeah. Don't want to ask a stupid question.
So have you done him more than once?
Yes, I've done him twice.
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 Twice. That's more than once.
Definitely.
It's double. Double? Yeah. I sort of think of the same jokes. I don't know. There must be something in that. Anyway, Chris Rea, The Road to Hell.
You're in my head.
Lynn Bowles, Traffic and Travel. Sexual chemistry between us.
Lynn Bowles has not done the traffic and travel.
I know she hasn't. I know.
5 years,
but it sounds lovely, though. Lynn Bowles. Bowles in your voice sounds wonderful. I don't know when I first heard you. I don't know when I was first aware of you. Presumably you started up in Scotland.
Yes. Well, I was always interested in radio from about teenage.
Did you find it sexy?
No, God, no.
Or not sexy,
no.
Exciting.
Yeah, well,
glamorous.
Yeah, no, not even glamorous, no. Just there was an excitement about it. But my introduction to it was really quite strange in that I used to listen to, because, I was a child in the 50s and a teenager in the 60s. So I used to listen to the Light programme or the Home Service. It was only BBC.
Yeah.
There was no commercial radio whatsoever until the mid-60s when the Pirates appeared. So I used to listen to the Light programme, and I used to hear comedy programmes which featured the comic announcer. And I thought I could never be a comedian. I'm not a comedian. I could never be a singer or an actor or anything like that. But I thought, no, I could be the comic announcer. The bloke was ostensibly reading the straight stuff, but getting a laugh. I thought, that sounds quite good fun to me. It was people like Douglas Smith on Round the Horn, and on the Goon Show, Wallace Greenslade. Great comic timing, these guys. You ever hear these shows again? Think, these guys knew what they were doing.
Yes.
But they were serious newsreaders on the BBC and announcers. And I thought, I would quite fancy I'd go at that. So I started listening to that sort of thing. I wasn't really interested in pop music radio at all. I used to listen to Radio Scotland, which was a pirate station, and it was really quite funny. There's some really good DJs on that. Particularly a guy called Jack McLaughlin, he used to do sort of, at the time, Andy Stewart kind of Scottishness, kitsch Scottishness was quite big on television, and he used to do a complete parody of that sort of thing, and called himself Yak McFisheries. And he used to just do a thing, and play Scottish music. It was really funny to listen to. But I wasn't really, when Radio 1 started, I thought, that's not something. These people are all kind of being, hey, brash.
Yeah.
With the exception, of course, of Tony Blackburn, who was always a good communicator. But there was quite a lot of brashness, and I thought, that's not me. But I was hearing announcers doing continuity and newsreading. I thought, I could do that if I just tidy up the way I speak.
Right.
And so I did. And I taught myself how to do that by picking up the Radio Times, which was rather more full in its descriptions of programs on the radio than it is now.
Yes.
But I taught myself to fill for 2.5 minutes in full sentences of saying, and then at 7 o'clock you'll be able to hear afternoon theatre. It's rather late today. That's the thing. No, I could just.
Where were you doing that? In your bedroom?
Oh yeah, into a little recorder. So I used to do. I just record 2 or 3 minutes of me either reading things I'd cut out of the newspaper as a news bulletin, or filling up a gap in programs. And by the time I actually got a job in the radio, I was ready.
Yeah.
But it took a long time. It took until my mid-20s before I got into the radio. I did hospital radio for a year or two, which was great. Lots of mistakes. Got them out of my system. But then at that point, I thought, actually, I quite like being a bit of a DJ occasionally. But I never thought I'd be. I remember saying to myself once, I'll never be Terry Wogan, so there's no point. There's no point in going into that line.
That's fascinating.
So my ambition for a long time was to read the 6 o'clock news on Radio 4, which I would still quite like to do today. I think I could do quite a good job on it.
I don't think the BBC would be open to you suggesting that at the moment. I think they'd say the time isn't right.
Yes. I may have missed my moment, I think.
I think that bridge, as you walk across that bridge, I think you might go, what's that smell?
Distinct smell of burning.
I don't know. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think probably.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You have such an easy manner. It's very easy to listen to you. You're on the radio turn, you hear you, and it's very easy to listen to you. Does that make sense?
It's about being yourself, I think. Because I'm not a particularly exciting or interesting person, but I've never bothered about worrying about that sort of thing. I think, well, if I'm having a conversation at a pub, this is the sort of thing I would say.
Yeah.
And I just say something similar. Yeah. Well, always being aware of not talking too much. I think this is the greatest thing about radio. Shut up. That's just, I'd say that inwardly to myself after I've talked for about a minute. Say, shut up.
Yeah.
Because you talk too long. Get to a point. Go.
Well, you've done the same thing in the broader sense now with leaving Radio 2 and going to Greatest Hits Radio. You've kind of gone, okay, I've said enough then. Now I'm going over here.
That's a good point. That's
isn't
good.
it?
You're good at this sort of
stuff. Quite clever, isn't it?
Yeah. No, but that's probably true. I never thought of it that way. But
Who had hits with Dancing with Tears in My Eyes and Vienna?
Ultravox.
Correct. Who had solo hits? Solo hits with IGY and The Nightfly.
Donald Fagen.
Correct. What was the name of his partner in Steely Dan?
Walter Becker.
is the right answer. I'm trying to think of more. I should have written these down. The Boy from Nowhere, Kiss, and...
Tom Jones.
Yeah, yes. The Wild, the Innocent, the East Street Shuffle
Bruce Springsteen.
Was an album by Bruce Springsteen. But who had a hit with Agadoo?
Agadoo is Black Lace.
Yes.
Turns out.
So I can't take your Bruce Springsteen answer because it wasn't them at all.
I forgot to take the
Great
first thing you
shame
said.
there. You got the last one wrong, just as I did when I came onto PopMaster. Hey, Ken, this has been a lovely... What a
equal.
delight. Thanks for doing this.
Can't believe the time's up already. It's been lovely to see
Well,
you.
we could... it's a Friday in our world, listeners, and... for both of us, that means clubbing.
Yeah. I'll be up until about 4 a.m. probably, and
I can't do that. I'll be up to about 3:30.
Really? Oh, you're getting
Yeah.
older. See,
Yeah.
I'm still up for it.
I'll be sort of giving it large, as they say.
I'm mad for it, mate.
Well, I say large, medium. A little bit of Ronnie at the end there. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, I mean, if you wanted to, I mean, this is a stereotype. If you said Canny Scott, good Lord, you could have your bloody picture there, couldn't they?
Canny
You've
Scott.
moved very well.
Dictionary definition.
It's like I feel like I'm in The Godfather Part 2.
I think I've always been slightly underestimated. So it's
Yes,
nice
you
occasion.
have,
It's quite nice occasionally just to go
I know.
and then sit back down again.
I know. I've been thinking so much about all this recent stuff with you, and full of admiration and full
Well,
of good
there
for
you go.
him.
As I've always said, I'd rather be undervalued than overestimated. So isn't that
Ken
better?
Bruce speaking earlier today in London. Nicholas Witchell is at the Palace.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Great fun.